We're now live with our webinar, Measuring Retail Marketing ROI Using Footfall Attribution. Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Sally Stafford, Account Manager in Australia, based in Sydney, and I'll be the moderator for this webinar today. Our guests today will be sharing their thoughts around the importance of footfall attribution and how we're currently helping retail brands drive more visits into store. So without further ado, I will be introducing you to our two panellists. So warm welcome to Dimpy, Head of Client Engagement at Xaxis, and Sangeeth, Country Manager in India at Lifesight. So just to provide you a bit of context around the webinar and the relationship today, Lifesight and Xaxis have collaborated on providing footfall attribution solutions to brands and retailers in APAC, and Sangeeth and Dimpy will run you through this in further detail, and they will also be taking you through a case study which showcases some great results. We've allocated some time at the end of this panel for some discussion, any questions that you may have. So feel free to just post any questions on the chat wizard at the bottom of the screen there. We'll then answer them at the end of this webinar. We'll also be providing some collateral with a lot of those answers as well after this webinar session today. So moving on to the next slide, I think it's best to just start with some challenges faced by retail marketers at the moment. So marketers in the retail industry face an array of challenges when it comes to understanding current consumer behaviour. And there's a few key questions that we're being asked at the moment. So how has consumer behaviour changed with COVID, within the last 12 months? Which channels should we be spending advertising dollars on? That's a commonly asked question. How can we be optimizing media spend and ROI? And also, how can we prove that the marketing campaigns actually working and achieving the core KPIs? So online metrics, I think we can all agree that they are no longer really contributing significantly to businesses' bottom line. And I know that with lockdown largely kind of ending its course in Australia, consumers are reverting to physical retail stores again, which is a really great sign. So I think with this in mind, Dimpy, I might ask you to jump in and just share your thoughts on the above challenges.
Yeah, thanks, Ali. So I would say that as of today, we call this a digital age, and the digital age has really elevated consumer expectations of relevant experiences. So today, consumers really know what exactly do they want, and they're pulled towards the brands that can identify their needs. So brands must craft a robust and strategic approach to remain close to their consumers in a very competitive marketplace. And since consumers are available on almost all channels like video, audio, gaming, display, etc., so it's essential for brands to kind of factor their channel selection basis the audience availability and their behavior. But what's more important here is how brands are further identifying and measuring each channel for the success of the campaign. So with evolving time, even brands have moved from basic media matrix of impressions and views, and they're now looking at end goals, so which could be a conversion on online portal for e-coms or even a store footfall. I would say that a real test drive for a brand, especially for automotive or a retail, makes more sense and drives an ROI for them. So every single dollar that's spent on media campaign has to result towards the outcome of the campaign or the media.
I couldn't agree more. I think those are some really valid points there. Thank you for your input. I'm now going to pass over to Sangeeth, who will be speaking to you about footfall attribution and just exactly how this works. Over to you, Sangeeth.
Thanks a ton, Sally. Hi, everyone. Very good afternoon. So today what we are going to see is what exactly is footfall attribution. So if you ask me well to put it in a very simplified manner, footfall attribution is a measurement methodology that actually calculates the effectiveness of an online marketing campaign in driving footfall to your physical stores. So for business that actually calculate this, their success is based on the number of customers that actually walk in their doors. Because for any retail marketer, the most important thing or the end objective is that he has invested X amount of dollars in setting up a store. And what exactly is looking at is how many customers are physically walking into my store as a result of the digital campaigns that I'm actually spending in. Of course, if you look at it, mobile marketing techniques are very, very efficient in showing you the number of consumers who actually view your ads. But if you ask me, are they enough to show what happens after that? So we need to know whether or not the consumers who received the ad physically has actually visited the store. So footfall attribution, therefore, if you ask me, it's a very clever mix of the results obtained from mobile campaign impressions and actually the data collected from the physical store. So if you ask me, with these techniques come certain metrics that actually matters to a marketer or to any of the brand marketer. So which are quite important benchmarks that will help marketers rank the campaign in terms of uplift and visit rates. So there are three things. There are three things that I'm actually going to discuss from a brand marketer side. What exactly they'll be looking, or what are the three main or important metrics a brand marketer will be looking at. Of course, the first thing is the visit lift. The first important metric, as I told you, is the visit lift. Visit lift is nothing but it's to say, if I have to say it in a very simple manner, what is the incremental store visit a brand has got as a result of running a campaign? Has the campaign resulted in a positive incremental or a negative one? So this metric actually compares the visitation of the exposed group or the group exposed to a mobile ad and entering the store versus a control group, which is actually a lookalike segment based on demographics and interest. So this is the first thing which any brand marketer will be quite interested in, which I spoke to you right now, the visit lift. And then the second thing what he will be looking at is the cost per visit, which is nothing but how much am I incurring towards bringing one user to my store? Am I incurring $1? Am I incurring $1? Am I incurring $3? Or am I incurring $5? Or how I should actually bring this dollar continuously down when I actually run the campaign for a longer duration? The cost of incurring, the cost of use, or if you ask me this metric actually measures the cost incurred in driving a physical store visits from a customer who has been exposed to your digital campaign. Now, after this, one more metrics what they will be looking at is finally the visit share of, or I would say the visit share or the share of footfalls to an outlet vis-a-vis the competitor outlets. So with these actual measurements, a marketer can get a clear picture on how successful a campaign has been. Yeah. Now that we have seen what is footfall attribution, it is quite important to know why footfall attribution is important for a modern retail marketer. I should say the answer is there are a lot of reasons why a footfall attribution is important for a modern retail marketer. And of course, that's an end objective. But I'm just picking up only 3 or 4 points, which is quite important, which I put in this slide. And of course, we have a lot of things to discuss, but I'm just keeping the time in think. I'm just taking only 3 points that. So post-pandemic, retail is one of the industries that have started actually to regain their momentum in footfalls. If you see globally, last year, the business has actually come to a screeching halt, which is why it is now time for you to tap back into footfall measurement to win over your old customers and bring in a new one's life. Which is why brands need to unveil what happens beyond the click by connecting the dots to the offline world and analyze the impact of their campaign on driving footfall to their location. So now there are 3 things which the footfall attribution marketers have to look at. Or if you look at it, why it is important is that there are 3 things that I would be looking at. One is measure the impact of a digital as well as an out-of-home campaign on a store visit and see which channels and creators work to drive visit to your store locations. Because every brand marketer is spending dollars and dollars of money in terms of impressions in different channels and different creatives. But will that be enough? Is the dollars that I'm spending in different channels and the dollars what I'm spending in different creatives, which creative is bringing me more walk-ins? Which channel is bringing me? This is very important from a brand marketer side because we do not know until we see the store footfall from which channel it has got. So the channel which is not bringing you more of footfalls, we can actually work on it. So this is from a brand marketer side, this is the first important thing that ideally that he will be looking into it. Now, is that the only thing? The second thing is the gather actionable intelligence about audience engagement and store visit behavior, which is including the demographics, the visitation patterns, the brand affinities, and many more. Actionable intelligence is one of the key things which any retail or a brand marketer should be looking at. What is actionable intelligence? So I was talking about what is it, demographics or a visitation patterns. So from a brand perspective, it is quite important to know which age group of people walked in, whether it is a male or a female who walked in more. What kind of brand affinities, which is the users who are coming to my store, what other brands are they visiting? Or the users who are coming to my store, what other places they're visiting? Or what is the geo-behavior persona? There are a lot of things like this from a brand perspective for a brand marketer to understand that out of this footfall attribution. So that is one thing which is, as I told you, that to gather actionable intelligence is what I said. The third one, if you look at it, it helps optimize the ad spend in flight with real world metrics that matters, such as cost per visit, visit lift, competitor visit share, as well as a conversion index. So when I say it not only helps a brand marketer to understand, okay, they understand that, okay, the campaign is running, okay, these channels are spending, these channels are not spending, this is the footfall that I'm getting on a daily basis. Now, what is the next step I should ensure to take so that my campaign, I should work towards optimization. So there are a lot of things that a brand marketer can do when he gets into this. So this is why I say that these are the 3 or 4 things that why a footfall attribution is important for a modern retail marketer. Now, going beyond one step, I would like to ask Dimpy your thoughts on this.
Right, Sangeeth. So I think I echo my thoughts with you. I would say that in today's cost-conscious environment, all brands are pursuing an outcome-driven media approach, right? So campaigns that are personalized based on just online consumer behaviors or audience personas are not really hitting the mark. Why? Because consumers, as the economic conditions has changed, even consumers' perception and their consumer purchase pattern has changed a lot. And consumers cannot be just identified basis the personas or the data segments, but be seen as individuals with frequently changing needs. And in that, it's extremely crucial for brands to identify that their consumer persona is looked from a 360-degree view and not just from a digital lens, right? And when you talk about it, it becomes extremely important that you understand a consumer's footprint understanding and look at footfall attribution in a way that you understand where in an offline world your consumer is traveling or what kind of behaviors are they further passing there. So these days, when brands are looking at ROI more than ever, it's extremely important that your campaigns shall be attributed beyond views and clicks of the campaign. These should not be just the measurement matrix, but you need to look at the end goal, which is a store visit, especially for a retail or even for an automotive as a sector, which is test drives that you're trying to drive for them. So especially with digital kind of changing the landscape for retail totally, it's very essential that you connect the offline world with the online world, where I definitely see footfall attribution playing the key and plays a major role there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it makes a lot of sense, Dimpy. Okay. So now that we have seen what is footfall attribution, why it is important, let's move on to the next one, that how actually it works. What is the technology behind this? How do you know that this actual user has visited the store? There are only 2 things involved over here when it comes to how actually it works. One is the device that you carry in your hand, which is your mobile, and the other one is the physical store that actually you visit. So what we do is, as a step 1, before the start of the campaign, all the brand stores are geo-fenced or a virtual fence or a perimeter around a physical location. And the step 2, what we do is, once the ad is served, the tracking pixel is fired and the campaign data is matched with the device ID. That's the second step. And the third step, if you ask me, once the device ID, the same device ID where the ad is seen, crossing the polygonally geo-fenced store, which is the physical store, it is considered as one physical store visit. This is the step 3. Once step 3 gets over, then the step 4, during and after the campaign, selected conversion locations are monitored for store visits. And then you get the insights around the user journey, or I would say that a 360-degree view of the user journey into the store is what we will be looking at it. So it's a very simple thing on how actually it works. Now, okay, before moving to that, so if you look at it, real-time offline attribution reports are actually made with insights on demographics, affinities, if you look at it, brand categories you have, geo. You'll also typically know what is the home location, what is the work location, the dwell time of a user inside the store. A lot of things can be looked at as an insights when at the fourth step when you actually look at it. Now, going one step further, okay, I will take a real-time example on how Lifesight, along with Xaxis, helped Nokia actually in measuring the impact of a digital campaign on footfall to their retail locations. I would like to call upon here once again, I would request Dimpy to talk more on details about how our actual joint venture or joint collaboration helped Nokia to gain actually a store visit of 156,000 and increase in a visit lift of 15.68%. Over to you, Dimpy, if you can just share this slide and this, case study.
Right. Thanks, Sangeeth. So it was a festive season in India, and as we know that every brand is at their best media strategy to gain maximum audience share during Diwali and festive season in India especially. Okay. So similarly, Nokia also wanted to gauge maximum share and engagement from their potential target audience. But looking at a highly competitive landscape in India, especially when it comes to handset category, we all know that e-commerce portals are bombarded with offers and many other lucrative products being launched. So Nokia did not really want to kind of get ahead into that competition already, because that was getting a bit more high on the cost side. So we identified a different strategy this time, where we leveraged their offline stores as the strength area and made some special offers which were curated only for the offline stores. So now the challenge was to get consumers, because we have a lot of offline retail stores, but we really need to have that kind of traffic also to boost the campaign sales and boost the success of the campaign. So to ensure that, what we did here was that we mapped more than 3,000 offline stores of Nokia with the help of Lifesight, and we partnered together to understand how many people are visiting Nokia store before the campaign starts. We understood their behavior, and we also kind of made our creatives in the similar line, where instead of taking them towards the online portal, we asked people to go to the nearest store and kind of try the handset and also take the offer there. The idea and the goal of this campaign was to drive 1 lakh store visits across the campaign, and that would have been the success. But after this entire 1 month long period, we could identify that we drove 1.5 lakh store footfall visits for Nokia, and campaign was really a huge success. And we could really also understand that how you can connect your offline world with the online world. So for any brand, as we know, even for Nokia, they do have their retail presence, which is very strong. But at the same time, when you're doing your media strategies, it's not really important that you keep your digital only up to digital portals. You can also connect your digital world with the offline world, and which is what we did even for Nokia. We leveraged digital power to tell people about the offer, which is in their nearest location at the nearest Nokia dealership or the store. And after doing that, we could really do a lot of retargeting at the same time for those users, because they were the potential target audiences. And with the help of footfall attribution by Lifesight, we could further map that how many people who were exposed to the ad went finally to the store. And in this way, we would also identify furthermore approaches for Nokia, where now when we do a campaign, it's not just an online campaign driving our online traffic, but we also utilize our online strength and powers here to drive offline traffic even for Nokia Next campaigns.
Thanks, Dimpy.
Fantastic. I think that's such a great example, and thank you for taking us through that. Thank you both, Sangeeth and Dimpy. I think everything that you've said, your views have been very, very insightful, and I hope everyone on the call thought the same thing. Now, we still have a bit of time, so I think let's take some questions. There's 2 here that I will start with, and then we'll gauge on time how we go if we accept any more. Sangeeth, this one will be directed to you. I think in line with what you've said about footfall attribution and how it works, the question is, how is the data being collected and how accurate is it?
So if you ask us how the data being collected, we collect the data through publishers. Publishers sourced GPS data is what we collect. And 80% of Lifesight data has, if you look at it, has got horizontal accuracy greater than 6 decimal points is what I can say, which is approximately 20 or 30 meter accuracy is what I can say.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Now the second question, Dimpy, I will relay this to you. What changes in footfall patterns to retail stores have you seen pre and then post COVID?
Right. I would say that when you talk about pandemic, everybody wants to understand consumer behavior, and even brands are very keen to understand how do they look at it, especially pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and post-pandemic. Similarly, I mean, even our consumers are humans like us, and they also have their behaviors very much changed with the times changing. So pre-pandemic, when we could look at Lifesight, we used to just look at understanding that how much can we attribute to the sales, like a case study that I talked about for Nokia, right? But today, when I talk about during pandemic and post-pandemic period, we know that our behaviors has changed a lot. We kind of put our essentials at the primary focus and not just going out to just kind of window shop, right? So we understand that Lifesight and the powers that we have, especially with footprint understanding, should not be just limited to footfall attribution, which comes at the end goal during measurement, but also when you're planning your campaign. We all know that this is a hyper-personalized world now. We need to understand our users' touch point at every single step that they're doing. So if you're relying only on digital signals, it's not really enough, and that's not hitting the mark. So if we want to go beyond and understand 360-degree view of a user, we need to look at their offline touch points also. Where are they going? How much time are they spending? And what is their behavior? And I think that is where even this footfall attribution rallies well with footprint understanding, where then you utilize Lifesight's entire portal there and offerings to understand like how better can you index your consumer behavior. So I think that's where this plays a major role after pandemic, because right now, instead of just going towards heavy on attribution, I think you need to weight your strategy for execution also very well in terms of planning also. When you're planning your campaign, it's essential that you look at 360-degree holistic view of the consumer. You understand their behaviors very well, and then you curate your creatives in according to their touch points and how they're behaving. And that's when you decide whether you want to take them towards an online portal. If so, what should be your communication? Or you want to really go beyond online portals and you want to drive that traffic towards the offline store. And again, if so, your creative needs to change. It cannot talk up in the similar lines. And if you're changing it, then will your CTA, call to action, be talking about linking a map to your creative, which shows the nearest store office location, or will it just ask them that the nearest store is within 200 meters of your region, right? So I think that's where it plays a major role, where pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, if I had to just summarize it, post-pandemic, it's not just about measurement, but also about planning, where you plan very effectively using these signals and insights.
I think you've summarised that really well. Thank you so much. Super insightful. I'm now just going to flick over to this screen and say that we've reached the end of our webinar, and thank you so much. There's been a lot more questions come through, so we will certainly be following up and providing answers to those after this session. So I'd like to thank Dimpy and Sangeeth for your valuable time today and being here to help us understand footfall attribution and how it plays a key role in retail, as well as going through the fantastic case study from Xaxis and the Nokia. That was wonderful. Thank you to everyone that has joined today. I hope you found this very insightful. As I said, we'll be sharing an email with the link of the webinar as this has been recorded so that you can share it with your colleagues as well. And I'd also just like to extend a big thank you to our team behind the scenes that have put this together today. Thank you again, everyone, and we hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.